Hi, this is Anne-Marie Zanzal.
And Tonda McKay.
And this is our weekly live sessions that we're doing every Wednesday evening for the foreseeable future at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And we want to welcome you. We are going to talk about our favorite thing. One of our favorite things in this community is lesbian dating. So this is a Dating 101. We're going to talk about all things regarding dating in the LGBTQ community, specifically women or people who identify as women and non-binary folks who feel comfortable in that space. Mm-hmm. So what is our first piece of advice, Tonda? If you've never dated a woman before,
then when you date women, it's going to be much more intense than when you date a man.
Yes, especially if you've been used to dating men your whole life. And also, if you think about it, if our sexual orientation is that we're not straight, then when we start dating somebody who's the correct gender for us, it often can lead to a lot of very strong, very confusing, very difficult emotions and wonderful emotions and exciting emotions. Mm-hmm. So that is, I think a lot of times people, especially within our community, especially women who, Barbara's going to co-sign that statement. And also too, I was waiting for a couple people to get on, but I would love to hear your, with an emoji, tell us your reactions about dating in the lesbian world. And also, we would really love to hear your questions, your thoughts, your experiences, because it's a lot more fun if we're sort of in this together than if Tonda and I just talk at people for a long time.
But back to what we were talking about.
Okay, go ahead.
If you're thinking that you're not straight and you've been with a man who, you're not as close maybe to them as you would be when you're dating a woman, then there's this intimacy that you just can't compare with a man. Now, if maybe straight women who really love, who identify as straight,
right,
maybe they have that. But anyway, if you feel like you have identified, as, help me out here.
She's struggling. So what I think Tonda is saying is that straight women can sleep with other women and not have it mean much to them.
Yes.
They just...
That's true.
Have you had that experience, Tonda? So they can, because
they can.
Yes, it doesn't mean that as much to them. It's just sex. Mm-hmm. But when we are emotionally, with another woman and we identify as not straight, maybe bi, lesbian, it is much more intense than with with a man. So our next thing we'd like to talk about is that I know, and Tonda and I know, and this is really from our own experience. So we met when we were in, our friend Stephanie is being a wise guy, and she's commenting in the chat. Yes, Stephanie, straight women sleep with other women. I think you know that.
Yeah.
I think you know that.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say is that, so Tonda and I met, I had already left my husband, but I was just coming out. I was just navigating this new world that I had not been a part of previously. And one of the things that I sort of forgot, because I was so used to relating to women as my friends, as my girlfriends, as someone I could tell everything to, I told Tonda everything about my divorce, about all my feelings, about everything that was happening. And I
don't know if I'm gay or not.
Yeah, all my doubts.
You were last night.
We are in a public space. Okay. All my friends, like all those things. Like I talk to her like I would talk to my best friend, and she is my best friend. But what I forgot is that she was also my lover and my significant other. And I was sharing things with her about my divorce, about my breakup, about all my feelings about coming out, about my doubts about whether I was actually a gay or not. I was doing all of that with her, and it was really hard for her because
It was really hard for me.
because why?
Well, the obvious thing is you're afraid that somebody who's been with men their whole life is going to go back to men.
Mm-hmm.
No one, whether you're straight or gay, wants to hear about you hurting from your last relationship.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one of those things that
Yeah.
you just have to suck it up and tell your friend.
Yes, right.
And so that, especially once you start having feelings and you think, well, maybe there's a future here, but this person is still, I had no idea because I'd never dated. First of all, I never dated someone who was in regular marriage.
Right. She had never dated somebody who thought she was straight.
Mm-hmm.
And it had been years since she had dated somebody that was just coming out. So it was like, it was a throwback to like 30 years ago for her, because she had been dating people for a long time. Tonda came out when she was about 20. So she had been dating women for a really, really long time. And she sort of in that time frame just forgot all the things that happen when people come out. So she, I would share everything with her, and I needed to find other people to share things with. Now, having said that, for those of you who are still married, don't share everything with your husband. Mm-mm. Just don't. I know as a former married to a man woman that we are so used to sharing everything with our spouse. And so we do that naturally, and we may tell them way too many details, and it is painful for them. It is painful for you. And it's just something that you don't need to share with the spouse. Like, let me give you, for instance, those of you who are dating a woman now, would you share all the details about your former girlfriend with her? Or, or if you date somebody else, would you? No, you just wouldn't do that. Or if you were dating a man, would you? The thing is that in our culture, we value women less. So we tell our husbands that we might be interested in. And a lot of us have this experience where our spouses say to us, oh, I don't care if you date a woman, that's okay. If it was a man, it would bother me. But if you're dating a woman, that's okay. And the thing is, there is a unspoken misogyny in there and an unspoken patriarchy in there, that somehow dating a woman is less than a man. And also too, I know a lot of spouses would never say, oh, you need to figure this out, go date a man. They just wouldn't. And also too, a lot of women wouldn't do that either. So I think we need to sort of ask ourselves our own misogyny and our own just thoughts about the patriarchy and how we have been conditioned to believe. So I think that is a really important, have boundaries. Like, I wish I had better boundaries. I wish I didn't tell my ex-husband so much about when I met Tonda. I was very excited about her. We were really communicating unhealthily at that point about everything that was going on. We have a joke about this because this is sort of a funny story, because he was like, oh my God, like we met for the first time in the middle of Pennsylvania after, talking to each other for about 4 months. It was a long time. We talked to each other for a long time. And I said, well, I'm going to meet her in Pennsylvania at an Airbnb. And he goes, you don't even know that. And then he said, what did he say?
He said, she's going to tie you up and leave you there.
Yeah.
And when she told me that, I said, oh, honey, if I tie you up, I'm not going to leave you.
So I share too much. I shared too much with Tonda. I shared too much with my ex-husband.
But honestly, you wouldn't have done that if I was a man.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
But I also Well,
Even if you'd have been talking to me, I think.
yeah, no, I wouldn't have. No, I wouldn't have shared that. So that was like one of those things that was I learned from hard uh, one experience, and also I have seen a lot of my clients, my coaching clients, they fall in love with somebody and are given permission by their husband to date this woman or date this, and like they know each other, and it becomes so unbelievably triangulated and complicated. So
Plus,
you have to
your
be thoughtful
husband
about it.
is not going to be happy that you fall in love with a woman.
No. And that's another thing is that, one of the things I always like to say is that when we tell somebody, when we give permission for a spouse to go and explore this, if you give a permission to a woman who is bisexual and or lesbian, they may not come back. That's the reality of it all, is because for the first time, we are with the person who is the correct gender for our sexual orientation. So that's our second piece of advice. We've got it written down, so that's why we keep looking that way. So
the
third piece.
The third piece is, so as somebody who's been out since the dinosaurs roamed the earth, it was actually illegal to be gay when I came out. I don't think about putting my arm around Anne Marie or holding her hand. I mean, I don't even think about it. And if you're dating someone, you've never dated a woman, and you're dating someone who is a longtime lesbian, and you are still struggling with feeling comfortable with PDA,
public display of affection,
then try to find a place that, especially if you're still in a marriage and you're just like trying this out.
You're exploring it.
Yeah. Try to find a place that's, don't go to the festival in the public square where everybody will see you and you'll be so nervous that she's going to put her arm around you. What would you suggest? Like just maybe go to a small coffee shop or
just go someplace where you can be yourself.
Tell them how you dealt with that.
Yeah. What I want to say first is that go someplace where you're comfortable, because then we are more likely to be ourselves when we're more comfortable. So if you're meeting somebody for the first time, this is all new to you, find some place that is comfortable for you to be able to be with this new person in your life and really get to know them and have an opportunity to get to know you without all that nervousness. So Tonda asks, so this is the thing, right? Intellectually, I knew there was absolutely nothing wrong with me dating Tonda or being with Tonda. Like, I was a huge ally forever. I never thought anything was wrong with it or anything like that. But emotionally, I remember when Tonda and I were someplace, and it was very early in our relationship, and we were out at a restaurant in my hometown, and a couple that my ex-husband and I were very, very good friends with showed up. Now, everybody knew my ex and I were breaking up and stuff like that, but it was an incredibly awkward moment, and I was very, very, very uncomfortable. Tonda just found out about this a couple of weeks ago. She didn't know this. And I was, first of all, one, horrified that I was uncomfortable, but two, knowing I took sort of, those of us who are in AA or Al-Anon, I sort of took a rule from their playbook, is I faked it. I pretended like I didn't care. I think Tonda held my hand, and they were on the other table on the other side of the room, and I just let her hold my hand. I was uncomfortable, but I didn't let her see that, because I knew that my feelings were from my conditioning, and there was nothing wrong that she was holding my hand, but I was uncomfortable.
And also, we had been dating for a while. Mm-hmm. If that had been our first date, that wouldn't have been the place we would have gone.
No,
because she, we would just be meeting each other, and then these people come out, and I've got to say that they were not happy about seeing us. They, you know,
You
their
could
face, they looked like they had just sucked on a unripe persimmon, you know, they're like, hello, you know.
So Barb makes a really good point. And also this is really normal. So if you're out with your new girlfriend or you're dating someone and you meet somebody from your straight life, it can feel really, really weird. And it just feels uncomfortable. I'm going to say, just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean that it is
wrong.
It is wrong. It's just uncomfortable. And it's just a feeling. A feeling is a feeling. And that uncomfortableness doesn't have any indication about your sexuality or your orientation. It just means that you're doing something new and you are just in the moment uncomfortable. I am not uncomfortable at all anymore.
And so the point is, if you go somewhere where that doesn't happen, you won't have that feeling, and then they won't take it to mean that there's something that you don't like them or whatever. Because, you know, you just are like, we're talking about your first date. They're not going to know that if you pull away. You know, I didn't even think about it because I've been gay so long. Had she pulled away or whatever, I would have thought it was me, or she was embarrassed for them to see me. And so
so people might misread it wrong. So, you know, I like, that's sort of my rule of thumb when you're first coming out and you feel uncomfortable. It's okay. It's okay to feel uncomfortable. And those feelings will change as we become more comfortable with our new identity.
This isn't on our list, but this reminds me of something. If you are dating a longtime lesbian, she may not, I mean, there are things that she just doesn't think about. And you know, as you date her or whatever, you can share these things with her, because everyone has a coming out story. There was a time when she came out, even if it was 40 years ago, and she felt uncomfortable. So, you know, but don't think that she's being insensitive or she's trying to embarrass you or whatever, because she may not, you know, I mean, I don't think anything about putting my arm around Anne Marie. It had been so long since anybody had, you know, worried about that, that I didn't even think about it.
It just didn't occur to her. And so now it would, because she's been within our community with me for so long now. So now she understands it and is able.
Now you're my wife.
Yes. I don't think I'm embarrassed anymore. Okay. So there's lots of lesbian identities out there. Okay. Mm-hmm. So there's some really great resources. There's a great resource on the HRC website, as well as the GLAD website that talks, and my website that talks about all different kinds of lesbian identities. I think our number one advice about that. So I know you all have heard of like people who are like, now the new word is mask. They use butch is like the old word for that. There's femmes, there's like futches that are the women that are in the middle, and they used to be called chapstick lesbians. Yeah. So I mean, there is a lot of different terms, and there are people that don't identify with any of those terms. So the thing is the reason why we're talking about it as next week, when we start talking about the dating apps and stuff like that, is that a lot of times they'll ask what your type is. And we're going to say, don't limit yourself to a type. I never expected to be with somebody who's masculine of center. I just didn't.
But
here I am.
Well, true. But if you know, when we're around my other friends, they laugh when when I say I'm butch. They're like, no, you're not.
She's not. But
I remember a long time ago, I heard this, it was a lesbian singer, and she was like, I used to think I was butch until I went to the Dykes on Bikes rally and I met them. So, you know, it's just a matter of perspective, you know.
Right. And also too, sometimes like people will identify certain ways, but then, but then when they'll think of themselves as butch, like, and our friend Stephanie's commenting right now saying she's not. And
I'm not as butch as Stephanie.
No, she's not. But the thing is that it's about perception, right? And so somebody might perceive themselves a certain way, but then when you get to meet them and be with them, their self-perception about how they label I'm getting down a deep road here. Yeah. So I'm going to back off of this and stop right now. But don't limit yourself to one label. Be open to all kinds of labels. You never know who you will meet and fall for.
And a lot of things that, in these groups and stuff, I see women, they are femme, but they want people to see them. That's a problem with femme lesbians is, it's people think you're straight. And there are a lot of lesbians who love femme lesbians.
Yeah, so. We've heard that. It's interesting because I've seen that on the pages. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm femme. No one's ever gonna," and I'm like, no. Femme women are just as attractive as all the other women out there within the queer community, and so just don't limit yourself to, oh, I only like someone who's butch, or I only like somebody who's femme, because you really will never know who you meet. And I'm going to be really honest with you right now. It's a numbers game. Okay, so this is a real reality check, is that, when we enter the queer community, there's just less of us. So there's not as many, there's tons of straight men to date, right? I mean, you may not want to date everybody, but there's just not as many lesbians or also bisexual women to date. Too. Right, and as you're older.
A lot of the women have been married or partnered for 25 years, and you're left with, people who have, like when I met Anne Marie, I had gone through a breakup. I had been in a relationship for 14 years. So you have to meet women who are just coming out of a relationship for whatever reason, or, it's just, you just have to, what can I say? There are some lesbians out there who are a little crazy.
Tonda likes to say that. And I'm like, oh.
she doesn't want me to say that, but.
Well, I just think that everybody.
As in every community.
Right.
There's a lot of trauma in the lesbian community. There's a lot of minority stress that we live with. There's, and it can affect people.
Correct.
So that's why it's a numbers game. You want to make sure that if you're dating, you find someone who is sane and has done work on themselves.
Yeah, I think what Tonda is saying is that as you enter into the dating world, that if you partner with someone, you want to make sure that their values match your own.
Yes.
And so if you're somebody who believes in therapy, coaching, whatever you believe in, it is important that you date somebody who shares the same values. And in a lot of times, those of us who are in the process of coming out later in life are often have done a lot of self-reflection. So it is often a value for us. So we want to partner with somebody that is able to self-reflect and see their role in the relationship and see what they bring to the table. So another thing, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Also, if you are a member of AA, you probably don't want to date somebody who drinks a lot. I mean, do those things up front so that you don't, start to get feelings for somebody that it's not going to work
ultimately won't work out. And Barbara said a couple of really good comments going back a little bit, and also too, this is a really big journey for a lot of us, and we change as we go out through this. Some of us start with sexuality and we think it's about our sexuality, but then as we move along, we realize it's more about gender for us, for some of us. So I have seen women come out later in life and eventually transition to a trans male. I have seen also women who come out and they're super feminine because that's how they live their life. But as they have grown into their authenticity, they become more and more either middle of the road or even very butch. So you, like Barb said, you just never know how you're going to come out and how you're going to turn out to be as you walk through this journey. And I guess Barb was also saying, she's dated them, so she's referring to the crazy women. So,
and actually, there's hundreds of thousands of lesbians out there who want to date femme women. Like we're saying, it's a numbers game. It's hard to find a woman who's available, your age, in your area. I mean, if you did a Venn diagram, you'd have to have all those intersecting points. Sometimes when you are single, especially later in life, you just think, I was single, 51 years old, 52, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, well, this is it. I'm just, and the love of my life, I met the love of my life and have had the most amazing time in my 50s.
Yeah. So another thing we want to say, it's never too late. So for those of us who are 45, 50 plus, it is not too late. And also too, there is, and like Tonda said, a lot of times when people are at the end of their 50s and in their 60s, there are some significant life changes that are going on. So you might meet somebody who's either getting divorced or their spouse has died, their wife has died, and they're open to dating again. So just because you're over whatever your old age, like your certain ages, life can change and you can be with somebody, even if you're in your late 50s, early 60s, even in your 70s. I find that my 70-year-old clients are the ones that have a fire under them because they don't have time to waste. They know it. And I find they move through the process incredibly quickly. Mm-hmm. So another rule we want to talk about is throughout everything you've known about dating in the cis-normative world, and just out the window, throw it out the window, because it's just not the same. It's just not the same. So, for example, do you ask somebody out on a date?
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to go out on a date and be really clear about it, I know so many women always go, I'm really not sure if that was a date or not. I don't know.
I know. There was a girl at one of the Nashville meetings or whatever. Mm-hmm. She was like, I didn't even know it was a date. I thought we were just getting coffee. And I went to work out and I looked all grungy, and she comes in. She looks great. She's dating her now. They're together as far as I know. So, she, I guess because the woman was like, oh, let's go get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, she didn't know it was a date. So the thing is that you can ask the woman out on the date. She can ask you out on the date. You can pay for it. She can pay for it. You guys can go for Dutch. I mean, generally, the only rule of thumb is if you've done the asking, then typically you pay for the date, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say that's true?
On the first date.
Yeah, on the first date. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are some of the other cis-normative stuff we have to throw out the window?
You wouldn't go to a guy's house or whatever. I've never, ever heard of there being a safety issue as far as lesbians. I'm not saying that there's never. Yeah, it's when you're married to them that they're.
Well, one of the things I think is that we always have to be safe and secure. I disagree with Tonda. I think, yes, if you spent an evening with somebody and you're really comfortable with them and you know that they're okay, then yes, you can go to their house. But I feel every first date, every time you meet a stranger, we always should have a public place in which to meet them for the first date, if it's somebody that you haven't met before. So I think we have one more thing and we're running out of time. Okay. Two things we're going to talk about. Put your best foot forward. Like Tonda just shared about the woman who didn't realize she was on a date. Like if you're going on a date, dress up, look pretty, look good.
Or if you don't know if it's a date,
dress up, look pretty, look attractive. I don't want to say pretty because not everybody identifies that way, but put your best foot forward, because I just think that's common sense, but sometimes people don't think of it that way, especially if you've been just with men and now you're just sort of getting into this scene, into the lesbian dating scene. Sometimes our brains have to sort of do a couple of clicks, but put your best foot forward, dress nice, wear perfume, and don't show up in grungy clothes and because if it's a real date, someone will think you don't care then. And you might care.
Dress the way that you want to dress, not the way that you think they want you to dress.
Okay, we're back. We were having, I don't know what the heck happened, but there was something going on wrong with our broadcast. And so we were talking about putting your best foot forward, remembering that the opportunity to meet a lot of women, we have to be open to that and not limit ourselves. So say you start talking to someone on Facebook Messenger and you're really getting along really great. Don't stop talking to other people just because you've started talking to that one person, because in the end, it's like meeting a lot of people. And so you've done all this work, you've gone on this date, and it just doesn't work out. There's no connection. You don't feel chemistry. You're not attracted to them.
You might have a friend. I mean, you might laugh about it and have just a friend.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of dating women, is that sometimes it might not work out romantically, but it could very well work out to be a great friendship, and you can become really good friends. And if you're both sort of new to the queer dating scene, you can also have a wing woman and when you start dating. So, the thing is that I always encourage people to think of it as an adventure and fun. And if you're somebody who's never really, like when you dated your husband in high school and you got married, or you only dated a couple guys and then you married your husband, maybe this is the time of our life to have an adventure. Date a bunch of people, get to know them, be open to whatever happens, find different ways to date people and just have fun with it, because, it's almost like having this second chance in doing things a different way. And that can be a lot of fun.
Mhm.
So we encourage you not to be afraid. Tonda's the more experienced dater. So if you have any questions, please reach out to her. I know Barb Rollinson's done a lot of dating as well. So
somebody was just plucked.
I didn't date as much, but Barb Rollinson has done a lot of dating as well. So please reach out to any of us, especially if you're brand new. We know it's scary. We know it's a new world. We know we can be uncomfortable. But, you know, reach out to us, and we'll be back here next week. We're going to be talking about dating apps next week, and we have a handout with a ton of dating apps.
And hey, you can ask Stephanie. I'm one of the most awkward people in the world today. If I can do it,
anybody can.
Anybody can.
Yeah. She is awkward. Let's just put it that way. But I find it charming. You made me lose my train of thought. We are going to be back next week, same time, still talking about dating. Bring your questions, please. We may not be able to answer them, but maybe somebody within our group can answer them. So we would love to talk to you and see you all again next week. Thank you for joining us. We went over. Usually we're right on time, but we did go over tonight because of our technical difficulties. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next Wednesday night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.